Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. Hey folks, and welcome back to the podcast. Today is one of our roundup episodes from Women in the Fire Service UK, where in June of 2024, I attended once again for probably the third or fourth run, and I went to their National Training and Development event. This was on the 7th to the 9th of June 2024, hosted by the Fire Service College. This year's event was another absolute whirlwind of experiences, development, connection, networking, and to be honest, just a super inspiring experience for me personally. And over the weekend, attendees and delegates took part in things such as abseiling, an introduction to the weird and wonderful world of firefighting challenges. There was an authentic leadership development workshop, which I've done the other year. That is a fantastic one. There's the Have a Go experience for people that are in the very early journeys of their fire service career, or perhaps even for Green Book staff looking to transfer into Grey Book. There was a cancer exposure awareness for female firefighters that was run by my good friend John Lord. Always an incredible and emotive presentation from him. You could have a go at driving a fire appliance. There was a session on engaging through change, which we did a mini episode with as well. That was with Lou. That's a really, really interesting one for me. You could have had a go at a fire behavior exposure. You could do fire investigation and fire investigation dogs. That was with my good friend Lindsay from the USAR and ISAR world, an absolute goddess in the world of fire dogs. You could have learned about fire safety in HMOs. And then there was the really, really interesting incident command work that took place, which was for all the multi-incident scenario workshops. We did a specific episode with all of the group from that as well. That's a fantastic chat. You could have an introduction to the rugby with the GB World's fire team. It's Time to Flourish was a great workshop. Managing difficult conversations, the do's and the don'ts. How many of us need to work on that? There was a workshop on neurodiversity thinking and realizing your potential, preparing for promotion, reflective journey, trauma training. Trying a TCG, that's Tactical Coordinating Group. There was a USAR, Urban Search and Rescue Awareness and Team Building, by my good friend Sarah Mimner. Oh, God, I love that woman. She is incredible, and amazing feedback from people that did that one. There was Wildfire Planning with my good friend Rob. We've had him on the podcast as well. So it was an amazing, just whirlwind of a weekend. I always love going back to these. It's actually their 22nd event. This has been going for ages, and it's amazing to see how much it's grown. The Antarctic Fire Angels, my good friends Becca and George, were there as the keynote speakers, and it was just packed. There was well over 200 delegates. I think the number was like 210 or something like that. And I just seem to be taking more and more away from these events in my experiences, my network, how I personally feel included and inspired and driven to keep doing the podcast, as well as leaning into my professional career, finding new and diverse ways of thinking as that network and awareness grows both around the world. And also we had some Swedish delegates there, so around the globe. So today is another insight into the WFS National Training Development event. And let's hear about who I'm talking to. So this second episode from my WFS adventures is with a very knowledgeable group of women who facilitated and ran all of our multi-incident scenarios. So this was for operational delegates only, and it was a little bit in the fireground and a little bit on the classroom. So these workshops are about providing an opportunity for incident command training and development aimed at ICL 1 and ICL 2. That's incident command level 1 and 2. So delegates weren't being forced to take part as incident commanders, but they did have the opportunity to resolve incidents operationally, working as part of the team as well. So as BA wearers, tool operators, pump operators, etc., etc. But it was full on. This was an all-day workshop for operational staff. They formed part of teams and crews and mobilized to incidents throughout the day. Gave a great opportunity to work with people from different services, and many of them made friends, I think, for life. They learned new techniques from others and trying something outside of your comfort zone as a group of instructors on hand to support them throughout it. So it was designed, I suppose, like a national operational group's familiarity and development. They were giving common understandings for key terms. It was great stuff for participants to pick up tools and tips from an incident command perspective. We had many levels of leadership facilitating and instructing on the events, from crew managers all the way up to some very high senior leadership. We had Lindsay on the podcast, very, very knowledgeable lady. And this was all about helping them work together to explore different incident grounds and develop that confidence in stepping into that incident command role. Whether they're a brand new firefighter that thinks this is something they want to do in the future, or maybe they are in a crew manager pool, watch manager pool, and those that are tipping into that ICL 2. So there was an opportunity for people to then come and take over the incident and get a briefing from the incident commander. There was train crashes. They were at Indy 2, multi-story. It's a great facility at the college and lends itself to lots of different incidents. And the workshop was fantastic. And this conversation that I'm having today is with the 6 instructors that ran it, or instructors/facilitators. It's a really great conversation, and we go into what does leadership look like? What does management look like? What does good incident command perhaps look like? How is it an art form? What does command presence look like? How do we help people, and specifically women, develop that confidence, maybe sometimes the assertiveness, but also there were some great points around, you don't have to shout, because people struggle with projecting their voice, but you haven't got to be the loudest person on the incident ground to demonstrate good leadership and good incident command. So there's loads to take away from today's episode, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Once again, a massive thanks to the WFS team for inviting me down once again. Be sure to check the notes to get yourself potentially to next year's event. And without further ado, it's a pleasure to introduce our multi-incident scenario facilitator and instruction team at WFS 2024. I'll see you on the other side.
Lindsay McVeigh,
Casey Granger,
Prue Blythe,
Paige Williams,
Louisa Curtis.
So, ladies, we are on day 2. Day 2? Yeah, we're on day 2 of WFS. I was obviously up a little bit too late last night with everybody else. My brain's a bit foggy. You guys and girls have been running the multi-incident scenario. Lindsay, what is that? Because we get stuck in our own little echo chamber here and we forget that people probably have no idea. They've seen a post, they saw the WFS thing on LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever. They don't know what this is. Maybe they were too scared to come. Maybe they didn't get a place. What was this scenario stuff based around? And then we'll go into kind of who did what and what scenarios you did.
Yeah. So the multi-incident scenarios is basically, it's an introduction to incident command for people who have got a little bit of experience in the fire service and are maybe thinking about the next step. Okay. But it's also, it allows women to experience level 1 incidents, so maybe if they haven't got very much experience, so if they haven't wore breathing apparatus very often, they can form part of the crews. Okay. So it's live fires, it's RTCs, and essentially they work through the scenarios. The initial incident commanders who are wanting to exposure at that level, they step up and they're offered mentoring support throughout the duration of the scenario.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Gore-Tex Professional Fabrics. Now, we all know the working environment of a firefighter is filled with challenges. We face serious risks on the job, such as heat exhaustion, burns, physical and mental stress, and we frequently come into contact with high levels of toxic chemicals. Now, I have been wearing Gore-Tex for nearly 2 decades on the front line, working in hostile environments, tackling challenging incidents from firefighting to water incidents and in urban search and rescue environments. Gore-Tex have a well-earned reputation for protecting professionals in the fire and emergency services through their family of highly innovative, waterproof, breathable moisture barriers that exceeds global performance standards and are trusted worldwide. Gore-Tex, going further together. So do they get voluntold, or are they sort of turn up and they're like, who fancies a bit of a go? Because there'd probably be less benefit for your SMGMs and all that sort of jazz coming to do it. But some people might read this and think, well, I'm not even an incident commander, so I shouldn't go and do that because to be honest,
that's what we kind of discussed, isn't it, before? Like, so when we get the invitation as such, they kind of put the names forward, and we get a list of all the delegates, and then we've got quite specific questions what we put on there because we also don't know who's turning up. So when we're trying to plan the exercises, we think, great, it's going to run like this. Yeah. And it never does. But
the last thing you want is someone bursting into tears and going, I can't do this, I feel embarrassed, everyone's staring at me.
But what we find is you've got quite a vast array of experience. Okay. So it's like, we'll kind of go through the list and put people in positions where we think would benefit them the most. But again, until they actually turn up on the day, someone might say, oh, I want to do this, but then actually when they get here on the day, they're like, I don't want to do it anymore, sort of thing. But we do, and this year we were quite particular, where last year I think we were a bit fluid with it, and we said this year we need to be like, these people need to work together. So I think it worked better this year, and because some of the feedback last year we got was there were some people who've been like watch managers for about 10-15 years, and then you've got someone who's been in the job 3 months. They're what they're going to get out of it is completely different. So we kind of try to challenge them whilst challenging the people who've been in for 3 months, didn't we?
I was going to say, it's a bit of a mixed bag with it as well, because we had a watch manager yesterday. They ride in charge of the pump all the time, so they don't necessarily want to come and be in charge for it. And because we go to multiple incidents through the day, it's like 4 or 5 exercises, they get to swap round on the pump as well. So we might design a particular exercise with someone in mind because we kind of need that level of experience for it to run smoothly.
But otherwise you constantly interject, aren't you, just to try and keep it moving along. You don't want too many people stood around not sure what to do.
And there's also those other JO roles still on the fire ground. You know, at an RTC you might sectorise, and then you've got your sector commander, so they're getting some incident command experience without. But
so are you guys there
as
some are role playing, some are mentoring, some are coaching?
Yeah,
like what
we've got like
incidents?
individual roles, really, haven't we? Just because of each individual's experience.
Start off really usually with just like a two pump exercises, so it keeps it a little bit smaller, and it's usually just simple BA.
How many delegates are able to go on it? Are the incidents?
24.
Wow.
Yeah. It's the biggest one, isn't it?
Yeah, 4 fire engines riding 6 on each. That's unheard of. So.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So, and do you roll them in like you would normally at a job?
Yeah.
So, because otherwise, if you get 4 arrive at once, it can feel a bit jarring. Because
Well,
then
that
a
was
lot
the
of people
plan,
stick
and
around.
then yesterday one just self-deployed, and we were like, oh, we've got 3 pumps here, but we didn't know we weren't meant to have 3 pumps. We were like, oh, okay. And then I think just someone had FOMO, and then the 4th pump just turned up.
I just want to come and play.
But to be fair, different services across the UK, you will find it. They're like where I started my career, you could be 2 trucks for half an hour.
Yeah.
Even if you've got a big. Whereas the LFBs and others of the world, I've got 4 pumps there straight away. So the initial incident commander is going to get immediately taken over anyway. So were they like 5-minute phases, or how did? Because you had a lot of incidents to get through in the day as well, didn't you?
Yeah, and that's the thing. We're trying to get through the incidents, trying to let them get as much learning experience from it as possible.
Yeah.
But actually, we need to wrap up because we've got another building to like fire that you go into in 10 minutes. And especially now with like welfare, it's making sure that they're getting that as well. So it was quite
with
challenging
the live
yesterday.
burns, that's an issue as well, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
you want to do the decon stuff properly and blah, 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 but then it's like, well, this isn't inherently a fire behaviour scenario, even though it is, but you want to keep it moving on to the next thing.
But even like for us, if we're setting conditions 3 times in the morning, it's like, well,
Yeah,
it's
100%.
yeah, but
You end up just flogging yourself out, and then the quality of it will drop off a little bit. So, when you're looking at the mentoring and coaching and sort of stuff, what do you think the barrier is for, especially women that are wanting to step into those roles? Because the idea of this is, it's a nice, smooth introduction for people that feel that shock of stepping into the front seat for the first time. I've got 2 25-year firefighters in the back. I'm going to look a dick. I don't want to embarrass myself. But when they come to something like this and they know there's going to be 4 trucks, how do you not control the incidents, but be that sort of soft hand on the shoulder, encouraging people and giving them that sort of tactical guidance?
Yeah, and I think it's myself and Kath Billion who do that, or who have done that over the last couple of years. And basically we take guidance from them, so we will brief them at the beginning of the day and we'll say, look, we are here, we can take a step back and just kind of monitor and then debrief at the end, or if you want us to kind of coach you. So it's kind of, we take a bit of a guide off the individuals themselves. So a lot of them will say, no, I want you there, I want you sat on my shoulder, I want you kind of directing us. And I think yesterday, so we had some fantastic candidates yesterday, or delegates yesterday, and they all did really well. But you just maybe there and you'll just say, right, have you considered this? What about what are you thinking if this happens? And so what is your plan, and where are your hazards, and are you sure everyone in the incident ground's aware? So it's just asking them questions to prompt the thought process. And then at the end of every incident, we always debrief kind of the incident as a whole. So the individual themselves would debrief the incident as they would a normal, kind of a real incident. They'll debrief it, and then we debrief the scenario, but specifically from an incident command perspective, because as well, what myself and Kath are really keen for all women to kind of understand it from an incident command perspective as well, to make them realise it's not that scary actually, stepping up.
And doing your level 1 also makes you a better firefighter.
Yes,
because you get
absolutely.
a holistic understanding of the strategic goals of the incident and how you're contributing or not to that overall goal, isn't it?
Yeah, so we're really keen for everyone to kind of have that incident command overview of kind of how the incident's been managed and things. And we've started introducing, just in the last couple of years, kind of bringing on a level 2 officer as well.
To do that handover, what that would look like.
To do that handover, and then to kind of run the incident for a little while as well. So that's brought an additional dimension to it, which I think works well. So if we've got, last year we had someone who had some significant experience, and we said, would you like to try this? So they're getting something from the workshop as well. So we mixed things up a little bit last year, and this year we brought Paige in, who's going for a level 2 fairly soon.
Nice.
So she
you
got
act as
involved.
an SM coming on the
in the morning, I think we were saying, we were talking about it, and I like, when would you ever get the opportunity to have a go at coming onto the incident with Kath Billen and
Because in the
Lindsay
service,
McVeigh.
they don't let you do that because you're not that ranked yet. And then you'll do some scenarios at your incident command centre, but
It's
usually they're virtual.
Yeah.
So this kind of level of playground, you're not going to get access
It's
to.
also
really.
without being assessed.
Yes.
I can't tell you how safe the environment is, and this is what we were all saying yesterday with the delegates. It's so controlled. They're there if you need to ask a question.
Yeah.
It was the experience. I said to Prue yesterday, I was like, I feel like I could go home and do my TCA now.
Yeah.
Like have a go at the assessment. Like it's built a bit of confidence, but.
In other news, this episode is brought to you in partnership with MSA Safety. Today we have them to thank for the improved firefighter safety through connectivity in their brand new connected firefighter system. At the centre of the connected firefighter platform is the MSA M1 SCBA with telemetry. That integrates straight in with the Luna system, which is a wireless all-in-one device creating an independent search and rescue network, providing edge detection, enhanced personal thermal imaging, while simplifying post-scene reporting and data retention. All of this then plugs into the FireGrid system for cloud-based connectivity, real-time information, and data-driven decisions for the incident commander. MSA are truly taking massive strides in the future of improved firefighter safety through connectivity in the brand new MSA Connected Firefighter platform. Now back to the show. So for all of you, I just spoke to a few delegates last night and they were saying about this element of command presence and asserting yourself in the incident going. It was something that you'd pushed and encouraged a lot, Lindsay, yesterday. And I even have this with new recruits when I talk about finding your voice. I'm like, it's a noisy incident ground, you're in charge of whatever, the pump, the ladder, whatever. You need to assert yourself. And people struggle, I think women especially, with this, but I'm not really a rude person, and I don't like, I'm not telling people what's that. I said, it's not about that. It's about creating this big bubble of safety. I need to give this incident ground a big hug and have control over it. So what terminology do you use in terms of encourage people to have that assertiveness and have that command presence, and how it's not being rude, it's not being condescending, it's having command presence and being in control and make sure everybody's safe. How do you help people get over that hump?
And I think for me, yesterday, so that came up quite a lot yesterday, and it was more about them experiencing what it's like, not necessarily when they don't have it, but when everything's coming at them at once.
Okay.
So there was a couple of scenarios yesterday where the incident commander was just literally surrounded. They had the BA teams around them, they had the entry control officer around them, they had oncoming OICs, they had firefighters waiting to be
is a little bit gone.
So and so when we were debriefing, we kind of said, you just need to take control of that. So take a step back and invite people to speak when you want them, and then say, right, now you go away and do your job. Right now, entry control officer, BA teams, this is what I want to do. Now you go away. Initial OICs, and so kind of
to every
bringing
individual,
people
their
in.
thing is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
But even that, whether it's not palming physically to the person, but just palm to the hand going, just sorry, rest there please, and let this person finish. Because they'll march up because they've just got all this information, they don't want to forget it, and they want to march over to you and tell you right now, you need to just rest there,
and
please.
when it happens...
Or I'm feeling comfortable to ignore your radio. Because it comes on constant, sorry.
We got that coaching on scene yesterday, and then after it I was like, this is a game changer. I feel like I'm in control now, because beforehand it was just like...
I just think you need to set boundaries from the start, and I think if you're like a bit wishy-washy with it at the start, it's very blurred lines, and then everybody thinks their thing, that they're entitled to give their bit there and then sort of thing. But you just need to be, like Lindsay said, from the start, boundaries. And then people feel more comfortable. It's like, whether someone would tell me to come to them or not, either way, it's like, okay, I've been given an order, that's what I'm doing. But if people are just trying to help sort of thing, and everyone's trying to jump in, I just think you need to set boundaries. But I think command presence is a massive thing. And
also,
for women,
I think it's really important to understand command presence as well, because you mentioned about volume of voice and stuff, and that's not what command presence. That's not what command presence is about.
You haven't got to be the loudest in the room.
No, absolutely. But there's certainly, as a female, I feel like that's what people think command presence is. Other firefighters, if you are, it's not like I'm not dealing with the incident and I'm not processing everything. I just don't need to shout about it, and that's command presence, not being the loudest. And, you do this, you do that. I mean, really overly.
It's almost if you get to the stage of where you're having to shout the loudest, you've already lost control,
absolutely.
because that's what you've had to default to, and that's not going to resolve anything.
I had a great coach once, and he was talking about when he'd have big meetings with all of his board, he would intentionally speak quietly because he says what happens is everyone else leans in.
Yeah.
Everyone else gets quiet. Everyone else leans in. He says you don't have to just everything just starts scaling up and scaling up and scaling up. You know, they always said he used to say wise men speak when they've got something to say and fools speak just to say something, and that's appropriate for either gender. It's just like some people just speak to fill the void, don't they? But it takes a lot of self-awareness to go, I don't need to try and shout.
Be comfortable just not speaking.
Yeah, 100%. The team here at the podcast are extremely excited to announce our brand new partnership with Patrol Store UK. Patrol Store has been serving the UK's police, fire and emergency communities and first responder sector since 2008, providing leading brands such as Hikes, Magnum, 511, Nebo, OpZulu, Highlander, AKU and many, many more of our favourites. They are now also supplying bespoke uniform, PPE and station workwear to fire services around the UK. So for all our listeners that are part of your USAR, your HEART team, your ISAR team, your armed response teams, your fire investigation, your NALO, your hazmat and all of the training departments that have got your own budgets, be sure to get the absolute best for your team at a realistic price by contacting Aaron and the team at Patrol Store and referencing the Firefighters podcast. Patrol Store will also be taking part in our listener competition giveaways as well as providing unique discounts to podcast listeners. So for people that are always asking about Hikes boots as an example, that is one unique discount code that is coming to you very soon through Patrol Store. We've also got some incredible bags. I mean, the OpZulu bags are a game changer. So you know the really Gucci and expensive tactical black bags that everyone's using in CrossFit workouts and taking to the gym and taking to stations? Well, they've basically got that, but it's made better and costs less, because they're not slapping some Gucci expensive brand name on it and it's giving you what you want on a first responder salary. Be sure to keep your eyes in the notes of the episodes for links to unique offers and discount codes. And if you're looking to buy well and buy once, be sure to get in the notes and head over to Patrol Store UK. Now back to the show. Talk to me about not getting sucked in. Like people transitioning from that firefighter driver position into that OIC role. It's like, I always say you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. And it's so easy to get sucked. I mean, if you're a sector commander and you're just in charge of this one vehicle and whatever, then you can suck in and out and just, you know. But I always say keep your gloves in your pocket. You know, you shouldn't be the person touching the thing and doing the thing. How do you coach people on getting far enough back, especially the size of some of the incidents you had yesterday? You had the train, you had some big stuff with a couple of sectors, knowing how far enough to come back and knowing that that's not you not being involved, but you can't stay in the chaos.
It's having that discipline, isn't it, to step back and trust the people that you're delegating to, which it's difficult, isn't it, especially if you don't know everyone. Our workshop is challenging in that sense because we have such a vast array of levels of experience, skill sets, the
Service
different
procedures as well.
Yeah,
Someone talks about the
yeah.
RTC stuff, and there is a variation in how the bigger services tend not to train their base level firefighters with the greatest respect to some of the more complex extrication techniques.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they've got their FIUs or whatever, whereas smaller services you have to kind of learn everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's balancing that as well. And you will still have this realistically with some cross-border incidents.
Yeah, and it can be a barrier to our workshop to begin with. Like the first incident's usually always a bit messy and slow because people are finding the way and they're a bit anxious, don't know what to expect from the day. But as they get to know each other and start building up that trust, and also we, as much as it is very incident command focused, we want everyone involved to get the most out of the workshop. So we also give them the opportunity, because we've got a team of instructors, again, of different skill sets, levels.
Well, like over the shoulder for the
personalities.
RTCI and just,
so we always say to them, this is your opportunity to literally throw yourself in and have a go, and we'll step back and just be that support for you. Or if you want coached through certain things, especially around RTC techniques or firefighting, they've got that option as well. So we kind of decide that at the start, and then let them get the most out of it, really.
I agree with that, because like certainly in those first couple of incidents you've got people with different BA search procedures, whether they take hose drill in or 45 in, there's all these things going on.
None of them are inherently wrong either.
No,
it's just
absolutely
different.
not.
I love that when I travel around and you go, well, they've been doing it completely different for 15 years. And guess what? Nobody died.
And it still works.
It was more or less effective. Fire behaviour romantics will argue that until they're blue in the face, I'm sure. But they all go out eventually as well, you know.
But that's it. I think, you see again those levels of experience in the buildings. And them getting, we go back to when, I think for one of the first multi-incidents where we met, Case was actually doing BA on on there, I was the person following, and we had that discussion before going in. Do you want coaching? Don't you? And things like that. And we do a little debrief after. So we're debriefing incident command, we're debriefing the BA, we're debriefing that. But then the following year, she came back as a BAI to come and shadow and help out on the thing, and then kind of taking it on, has been running it for us.
The amount of people that do the workshop and then go, can I be an instructor next year? Like, I think it's really influential on the girls. Like, I was watching them yesterday, I was like, God, that is so brave to rock up as a firefighter and take control of an incident when you don't know any of the girls.
But it's intimidating.
And he's absolutely smashed it. I was watching the one girl, she was from LFB.
Oh yeah,
she was amazing. Her handover was amazing. I was like, God, it's like you've been doing this for
years.
years.
And these are turning out to like India A, which is a four-story high-rise, 3 floors, well alight. And we're like, we'll crack on then. And it's, do you know what I mean?
But it's that safe space, isn't it, though, to do that, right? And I love it that they want to come back as instructors, like the next year, because I think I've been coming for like 15 years and get something different from it every year. In that transition from being a delegate to an instructor, and then I was thinking, oh, am I going to miss out on like actually doing it? And actually, no, I love it. Like you see how much they appreciate like what you're doing, and you're helping them, and the confidence that they go away with like gives you that buzz. Like,
I always say. Instant command coaching or even instructing in general is also a bit of a trick because you get so much better yourself because you're not actually doing it and you're stood
just
back.
Talking about
you're
it,
watching the whole thing all the time. Usually you're so in it and you're in that hinge point or you're actually in BA and you're not really seeing it where you stood back and you're like, oh yeah.
Did you get anything from yesterday, Liz?
Yeah, Liz, what did you say? Because you must still be. Obviously, you're getting something from this. You're no better or worse than anybody, but you're at a different stage in your life and career. And why do you keep coming to this stuff? What do you get from it?
Well, I love the crack.
I just come for the bands.
So I love this, but I like. You know, I'm a firm believer if you can see it, you can be it. And I think, you know, for women coming on this workshop, seeing the likes of myself and Kath and you know, the other strong women in the team, but certainly from an incident command perspective, you know, Kath and I operate at the level 4 level now. But, you know, going back to basics, it's great. And you kind of like, oh, God, yeah. Sometimes I've seen delegates who are kind of like got everything nailed on and think, God, they're like far better than me.
But they will also have that,
what are you doing?
that bonehead moment. Like, how did you have your first like bonehead moment? I'm trying to think of a better word for it. But an incident where you did. I remember finding one of my crew found a body on the first floor of a place where I didn't send people upstairs because I wasn't happy with the stairs, and it was found later. And it did say that they died of smoke inhalation. We thought they were a rough sleeper and it was drug overdose, but it wasn't. And it came back and I was like, and then you have that question of should I have done this, should I have done that, and all that sort of. Did you have any moments where you made a wrong decision or you'd had a terrible debrief from an SMGM, whatever, and sort of went, shh, I should have.
No.
Never had that.
Pretty good.
You would just plug and play all the way.
Well, you know, when I first stepped up to crew manager, it was that I was just constantly involved.
Yeah.
So, and I soon realised that I need to take a step back. And then I was an incident command instructor. So it was like crew manager, station manager, crew watch and station manager, and group manager to an extent. So kind of level 1, level 2.
Yeah.
Not quite going level 3, 4, but and that just embeds the process so much.
Muscle memory.
Yeah. And yesterday I said it as well. For me, you can sometimes turn up to something and you think, oh, holy Christ, how on earth? But I never try and let that show. And what I do is I'll stand and I'll continue to ask questions until I've kind of calmed down a bit and I've thought, right now I'm starting to get it and I'm coming up with a bit of a plan. So I'll ask question after question after question of kind of the responsible person or whoever it is that's got any information of the incident until I kind of calm myself down and think, right, now I know what I'm doing, now I know where I'm going. And then I'll start, right, kind of briefing the crews, but as well, for me, I've always been a massive advocate of you might be the officer in charge, but you're probably never going to be the one with the most experience. So when I was on the trucks, and even now when I turn up to an incident, the people that you know that have got a vast amount of experience, I'll say, right, come with me.
Yeah.
Come with me. Right, what are your thoughts on this? I'm thinking this, but what are your thoughts? And there's no weakness in doing that. For me, it's
some
two
people
heads
think
are better
though,
than
if
one.
they're responsible, which the commander is ultimately responsible, they feel that weight of responsibility and feel like they have to have the ideas, or there's a little bit of that ego maybe, or just again the weight of responsibility, trying to realise that you have to take ultimate responsibility. You haven't got to take all the credit, and you haven't got to have all the ideas. And if someone has a good enough idea and they're a subject matter expert, if they can articulate it well enough, you can just give that, I'm happy with that, we're going to do.
I think that's a culture thing as well, making empowering people to feel like because you're a firefighter doesn't mean that your views are less valid of this incident, and enabling people to have that conversation with you. I'm not saying have a big debate about it on the fireground, but just to come at you with ideas and say Gaffer, what about this? Or and I do think that's a cultural thing.
But even when we go around the room, we ask the girls to introduce themselves. People will say normally where they're from, what service and what rank, and some people go, I'm just a firefighter. It's why are you saying the just before you're a firefighter? All the people above you wouldn't exist without you guys. But so I don't know why people say I'm just a firefighter. They're devaluing themselves. And I really wish people wouldn't say that.
They're your most valuable resource. You say the longest.
It doesn't matter how many chiefs you've got if you've got no firefighters. It doesn't matter, make a difference.
Ever heard the quote that true leaders are readers? Well, we believe this is true. Listeners often ask where we go to keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening in the sector globally. So there are a few key publications which I encourage you to go check out. Now, if you're looking for insights on disaster management, fire protection and firefighting, for us, we go to Asia Pacific Fire Magazine. And when you're looking for the latest on the Middle East fire protection industry and fire services, it's Gulf Fire Magazine. And our quarterly check-in is with International Firefighter Magazine, reporting to municipal, industrial and fire training professionals. Now, next up, and widely accepted to be the global voice for passive and active fire protection, this is a good one. It's International Fire Protection Magazine. And finally, and perhaps the most relevant to our predominantly UK audience, I'd strongly suggest subscribing to UK Fire Magazine, reporting to the United Kingdom fire protection industry and fire services. We're really excited to announce that after a long-standing relationship and mutual respect, we've now partnered with MDM Publishing, who bring you all of these essential publications. Because in a world of change, the learners shall inherit the earth, while the learned shall find themselves perfectly suited for a world that no longer exists. Eric Hoffer said that, and I believe he was right. So keep growing, keep learning, and keep yourself in the know and at the cutting edge of what's happening globally by dropping into the notes. And as a gift from the podcast, you can actually subscribe to any of these publications for free using the link in our notes. Now back to the show. How do you were saying there, Linz, about question, getting more and more situational awareness. I've been doing some stuff with some direct entry people coming at that level too. And they're coming sometimes from sectors where it's not a moving target, and they can get all the information eventually, and they can move ahead with almost absolute certainty. And I always say with this stuff, it's always a moving target. Eventually, at some point, you've got to go with what you got. Because if you wait for absolute certainty, the target will have moved, and your information won't be accurate. So, I know it's hard to put a number on it, but how do you coach people on getting to that? Look, you're going to get to 67% certainty, and then you've got to start now. You've got to start putting in, and it might change for 10 minutes. But if you wait 10 minutes, the whole thing will have changed anyway.
I was thinking that yesterday. I was like, because I felt like some of the briefs were really long that they were giving me, and I was like, okay, something inside me is saying, okay, thanks, I've got enough. But I don't have the experience to. I didn't really know when to.
That's almost probably you don't want to shut them down because they're also in the learning environment.
A little bit of that, but that was sort of yesterday. I was like, okay, I need to.
But the same with like questioning the homeowner. It's like, okay, you want vital information, but I don't want to know. Oh well, we moved all the cereal from the middle cupboard to the end cupboard yesterday. I don't need to know that. You know, where are the kids? Is there anybody in the house? Where are they? And they go, well, I think they're around next doors because they just came back from canal boating for the weekend. It's like, I don't need all of this. And also, again, it's not being rude, but it's knowing I need to get these crucial pieces of information. Then I've got to go, right, okay, just go stand next to the truck for me. And now I'm going to brief my crew, then I'll come back to you. Like, how do you, that's a very personal thing for everyone, isn't it? How do you know when's enough's enough?
And I think, there's been a lot of studies done on this, isn't there? And that recognition, prime decision making and things like that. And I think for me, everyone around this table will have turned out to a number of house fires. So when you turn up to a house fire, you have in your mind a plan of what you're going to do, but you need to understand, right, what's the layout of the property, where were the persons last seen if persons are involved, where's the fire? For me, once you've got those, and I always say, right, are there any other hazards in there that could potentially injure our firefighters? Is there anything in there that I need to know about? And then once you've got that, it's 3 quick questions, 4 quick questions maximum. And then
but even the way you said that question is important. I would say, is there anything inside that can injure my firefighters? If you say to someone, is there any hazards?
Yeah.
They
Yes.
go,
Actually,
we get stuck in our vernacular and they go, oh, no.
What's a hazard?
What's a hazard? And they're stripping a motorbike in the lounge. And they go, they didn't tell me about, that's been there for weeks. Like,
It's
my
not
kids
a
run
hazard
around,
anymore,
it's not a hazard. It's not to them. But those words, is there anything in there that can injure my firefighters? Those sorts of terminology.
So I think a lot of the time, there's most incidents you turn up to, once you've been them 2 or 3 times, you've got a plan in your head.
And you're probably familiar with the area and the best access route.
I think it's those incidents that you're potentially not used to, that you know that can kind of come up once in your career, that you start thinking, wow.
Like a train crash that you did yesterday.
Like a train crash, I have actually had a train derailment.
Yeah.
I mean, fortunately there was no injuries, but there was no comms. It was a mile away from the nearest appliance. It was just, and obviously you had to get everyone off and you had to walk. Oh, it was just a nightmare.
And your mind's rifling through on the way. What's the overhead line again? What's the distance? What's the cordon? Do I call a stop on the line? Who do I talk to? National Rail, is it? Or 1,000 calls to control.
And it's things like, it's just giving people strategies. Like yesterday we spoke about, so the train scenario that we had. So we had, was it 3 carriages? And then in one of the carriages there was a number of kind of like hysterical people. One of the carriage was flooded with smoke. And then we had a 2-vehicle RTC that had gone into kind of the side of the train on a level crossing, and then the train had hit a car that had gone onto the level crossing, and that was at the front of the train. So it was quite a significant incident, probably or hopefully one that a lot of people will never come across in their career. But you know, it's about saying to them, right, if you turned up here with 1 pump, what would you do? And we had that conversation yesterday, because a lot of services, you know, level crossings, more rural areas potentially, and you know, and certainly where I started my career, where Casey's in Cumbria, you know, you could turn up with first pump with 5 on at that point. And you might not get another pump for 10 to 15 minutes, depending on if the nearest on-call station was available, the nearest retain station was available. So I was saying, you know, you need to think about what you would do if you just had 1 pump here. And for me, it's about giving them strategies to cope with things like that, so they can apply them not just in that scenario, but in other scenarios that they come to. And I spoke about kind of, right, as an incident commander, for me, if I turned up with 1 pump and I was faced with all this, I would just say, right, I need a good understanding of what's happening here. I want a runner to go down to that car at the front, do a recce, see what's going on.
It's triage the whole thing.
Yes, absolutely.
We have this with ISO when you're like, right, we've got 3 miles of collapsed structures. We're going to have to walk past a lot of people who desperately need us now. And they're all going to come and grab you. They're all going to try and pull you in. And you've got to just get that triage and go, we're going to move on now. Now we need to move on.
Absolutely.
We may come back, someone is coming back to you, but we've got to move on. Because we've got to assess everything that's going on here.
So by the time, you know, the first pumps got there and the OICs detailed them to do that, the individuals come back to the OIC, they've got a decent picture of what's going on, so then when additional resources come, they can better kind of direct the resources.
That takes a lot of discipline though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because brand new firefighters, they join to make a difference and they'll get dragged in, they'll get pulled in,
you get sucked in,
they want to help.
If you're a regular listener to the podcast, then chances are you are big into your own personal development and the development of firefighters around you. So I wanted to remind you of our mobile app Drillbook. This is a free training and development resources made by firefighters for firefighters. Heading onto Drillbook, you will find incident debriefs, radio messages, knots and lines, quick reference guides, quizzes every single day. We've got useful links to the ERG, to Web Rescue, to Jessup, Euro Rescue, 10-second triage, National Operational Guidance, and not to mention our daily quizzes where you will find questions on extrication, casualty handling, breathing apparatus, fire development, water rescue, rope rescue, you name it. It is the go-to resource if you've got a spare 5 minutes on the firehouse to develop yourself and those around you. Not only that, if you're looking to get into the fire service, we've got advice on there on interview questions, interview answers. You can build your own questioning in there. And again, remember, this is built by firefighters for firefighters, so you can add your own drills in there. You can pick the drills that you find the most favorite. There is literally hundreds of training ideas, hundreds of drills in there. Remember, this app is absolutely free and it grows every single day down to the contributions of our thousands and thousands of users. It's freely available on Android, Apple, and you will find it in the links for this podcast. Remember, it's called personal development. The clue's in the name. You've got to work twice as hard on yourself as you do on the job. So always be growing, always be developing. Now let's get back to the show.
I want to respectfully the time, girls, because I know we've got a lot more to do today. It's the final day. Finally, I suppose I want to ask for a little bit of a sales pitch, because there's still lots of services here that are underrepresented. There's some big services sending 20 plus people, but there's people that we listen to this that have never been. You've come for 15 years. People keep coming back to these things.
That's why they can't get in.
Why do people come to this? Why should they come to us? It's not just everyone coming for get drunk for the weekend, and it's not a girly.
You don't think you need to see
thing.
it till you see it. I was like, I didn't fancy it really, and I didn't know much
some people
about
don't want
it.
to be like framed in I have to go to the girls thing because I'm a woman.
Well, because people ask
I'm more
on
than a woman.
station.
I know you are, but I'm a guy and I go. It's not just. It's a great development weekend. But people think it's just a women thing. We're all going to stand here and chant and hold hands.
Yeah, that's the perception.
It's far from that.
Yeah, and I think the more, we brought someone from her side who's in our apprenticeship team, because she works so closely with the firefighters, and we said, come and get an understanding of. And I know now she will go back
as a champion,
and she will be the voice of the the training centre, and she will tell everyone. And it's just about.
And she was doing fire behaviour yesterday.
Yeah.
I
Well, I
do
think she's going to go put an
how...
application in to be a firefighter now. She's well on the train, isn't she?
There's loads of Green Book staff here that were looking to do that transition, aren't they? Not that they can't have a long and fulfilling career in the Green Line, but a lot of them, and the green side of it, but a lot of them want to come over now.
I think some of it as well is once you have been, the relationships and the network that you build. As I said, some of us have been coming a really long time, but we stay in contact away from this event, and it's nice having that outlet to people that maybe aren't in your service, that you can kind of reach out to.
You get stuck inside the echo chamber, don't you?
Absolutely.
And you feel like this is the only way to do it, but then you can reach out to Merseyside, Cumbria, wherever, and go, what are you guys and girls doing there? Because I'm being told this is the only way. And they're like, no, you can do X or Y.
We do that loads, don't we? With policies and stuff. We always say, what can you give advice on
this? And it's not just in terms of, it's work-related stuff in terms of actually improvements in your service you're trying to bring, but it's also on a personal level, just to have some people to just reach out to if you're, maybe struggling with something, or you're not sure how to approach something, you've got staff in it, whatever it is.
Or you want someone to do a pulse check on a situation, you're like, this is happening, and I don't think it feels right, but am I blowing this out of proportion? I'll tell you what I think's going on, you tell me what you think about it, and they'll go, mate, that's fine, or they'll go, dude, you should have done something about this a while ago.
Yeah, exactly that, and not just necessarily work-related stuff on a personal level as well. You build those personal relationships.
Definitely. I think we've all got shared lived experiences of being a woman, and however far the equality agenda has gone, it's still not there. And so coming to something like this, even if it's something really minor that you've had in your service, and you come here and you're talking, you're making new friends, you mention it, and someone's like, oh yeah, me too, and this is what I did, and you're like, oh, and it's just having that shared lived experience, and being able to to share that with other people and build those relationships is for me one of the biggest things that people get out this weekend. All the ops stuff, all the Green Book staff that come and do all the have a go stuff is great, but the takeaway from it, the long lasting effects, are those relationships that you build.
I think you feel less lonely, even for guys and for girls, because you feel like a bit of a freak in your own service because you're banging a drum, and if there's no one around doing it, you feel like you're the only one. But then when you come to and you go, oh no, I'm not weird. There's lots of these people, there's just not lots where I am. But then you feel less lonely, and hopefully I always feel it's like a warm bath. You come here, you get warmed up, you get full of motivation, and then that will empower you. Not that you're going to go back and get beaten over the head with negativity and pessimism, but there are a lot of people have had some jaded experiences in the services.
Someone on my station was like, what are you doing the weekends? And I told them where I was going, and I got when's men in the fire service? I said, every day.
Every day.
I said, we're doing it today. And I said,
we're doing
when
it
have
today.
you been? I said, have you ever been the minority? And he went, yeah. I went, go on. He went, took my daughter to a dance class, and I was the only dad.
Yeah.
I said, so you've experienced it for an hour? I said, and how was it? He said, I didn't really know what to talk about. I said, well, there you go. That's why I'm going the weekend.
Mate, when I was getting my daughter to learn to swim, she's 1 or 2, and my wife was working, I would take, and it was 12 or 13 other mums, and then there's me, this big white meathead in a pair of swimming shorts with my tiny little daughter, and no one wanted to talk to me, and I felt a little bit, after I'd been 3 or 4 times, they were great, but it was that, because they were all talking about challenges they're having with their bodies and post-birth, and they probably didn't feel comfortable, because I couldn't perhaps relate to it, but for me, I just felt bad for my daughter, because I was like, well, she's getting less out of this because she's with me. It's my fault. Not that she was enjoying it, she was 1, but they were doing stuff, and I'm like, I'm not trying to get over there and get involved in it, but then they're like, is this fucking massive guy being weird? And I'm like, it was really, and I thought to myself, is this what women feel like when they're at work? I have no idea, but.
It's Paige bringing that up for me. Like that is one of the big barriers that we still face. Is like if you come and you have to get leave from work to come, so you've told your watch. Is that fear of like what are the watch going to think of me wanting to go on this weekend? Like that's
Am
still
I going to come back and accuse them all of being sexist?
Like why? We don't see a need for it. Why do you need to go? Your sound, we ain't got no problems there, and it's sort of that understanding on station of why people want to come. I don't think is still there, and I think that's probably one of the biggest barriers we get to getting people to come is that fear of telling everyone and being sort of like labelled as like one of them women, like. But then you go back.
I welcome it, Meg. I think, come on, give me all the questions. And I weren't last year, but then I do genuinely like think it's because of this.
Yeah.
Now my attitude on station, I'm like, just come on then, let's have the chat.
I think
let's just get uncomfortable having the chat.
That's okay.
I'm here for it. Yeah.
And also, how often do you have the opportunity to use the facilities like that are on offer here and have access to the workshops that are on offer, even, the classroom stuff as well, these development opportunities, promotion workshops. It's not just the ops stuff, it's everything else over the wellbeing stuff. In a site like this, the incident ground, we've certainly, that's what we experienced, particularly for our workshop. Some of them have not really seen much live fire.
Yeah.
And, so it's on the practical level as well as all the other stuff. Just, it's such a good opportunity for anyone, isn't it?
It's the psychological safety thing as well. Like, yes, I do loads of support with the WFS thing, but if people ask me to describe this event, I go, it's full of really optimistic, passionate people who make you feel welcome and all that sort of stuff. Sometimes when I go to lots of other industry events, and some of them will be heavily male, it feels like a bit of a cock-off. And I feel like people are waiting to do a gotcha. Like you're in a meeting and you say the wrong thing or you get the wrong procedure and they're like, you know what I mean? And then they're all coming out with their own acronyms. I'm like, why are we all here trying to make each other look like dicks? Why are we just trying to flex all the time and wear our ranks and all this sort of shit? I'm like, why can't we just relax and go, I didn't know that either. Do you know what I mean? You come to something like this and everyone's going, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And then you go, did you know this? And I'm like, you can fail safely at things like at events like this.
Yeah.
Because no one's trying to make you look stupid or wait for you to trip it up. And it's like, why is that rare? It's a bit sad that that's a rare thing. Sorry.
I'm reflecting on when the first year that I came, I was very early into my career and I was really naive as well when I was early in my career. And I'm trying to remember if I came on my own. I think I did.
I stay naive. I try and stay naive my whole career.
Well, I'm not anymore.
Naively
hopefully.
optimistic.
Remind me if I am. But when I first came here, what?
Sorry.
When you first came, you came on your own.
I'm sure I came on my own, if I remember correctly. And at the time, I was a recruitment officer in service, so operational as well. And I mean, I've always been a people person, so I'm not uncomfortable in a room full of people I don't know. I'll happily talk to folk or not. But what struck me so surprising was how everyone can literally be themselves. They can wear what they want. They can properly just be themselves in this environment. You can wear a uniform. You can wear what you want. You can be dressed up like you're going to a wedding, or you can look like you go to the beach. That threw me because I hadn't been around that sort of environment before. But also what I loved, and I've been in a few different roles within the service recruitment, training, and coming here, not only do you get all these workshops and get to meet new people, but the networking opportunities were marvellous. Like now, if we've got whether we're doing a project or something at work, straight away you've got this avenue to speak to women in the fire service and they can cascade to all of the services a question and you can get all these responses back straight away without having to start from scratch.
I love what you said there about like almost being transparent and just authentically you. I have this idea of like bring yourself to work day because I think we spend half of our careers chopping off lumps of our unique you-ness to fit into. I say one of the best compliments I get is when people say, "Oh, you're a bit different," and I'm like, "Thank you for the compliment." I'm like, because why would I want to try and be part of this group where you're all bitter and angry and upset? Why am I? Professionalism's like a prison. People are screaming to get inside, and they think if you go and just be you, then you will appear unprofessional or you'll feel. One of the senior leaders in my service. Sometimes she comes in and she's not wearing a uniform, and I've followed that trend. I'll come in some days and people are like, "Why are you not in uniform? Where's your rank markings?" And I'm like, I need that if I'm on the incident ground.
So I won't lie.
I don't need to walk around going like this and tapping my shoulder. I'm in a fucking meeting.
I won't lie. I much prefer just wearing uniform. And I've recently been running about this. As in a work environment, I'd far rather wear uniform. Here, I love that people can just be themselves.
But actually, like even what people here, like you have a room full of 300 women, for example. Yeah. And we're all just kicking about in whatever, and you could be chatting to someone, and you could go, "Sorry, I didn't actually get your name, or where you're from." You're like, "Oh, I'm so and so, I'm the chief," and you're like,
"I don't need to know that Lindsay's 7 ranks higher than me. It doesn't make her more or less of a person."
You would approach that person differently if they were sat there with rank markings on, and people would probably be intimidated. But it'd be like, "Oh yeah, hiya, Lindsay, right?" And it's like, "Oh, so what? Sorry, what do you actually do?"
Well, it was last year
when somebody asked, and
Kath was rolling the hose up, and someone said, "Oh, like what do you do?"
Yeah.
And Kath just went, "Oh, well, I'm in Cornwall, Fire and Rescue Service." She's like, "Oh, you a firefighter?"
She said,
with the biggest black stripe on the
literally just rolling up a stem. She went,
and I went, "No, she's the chief." And the girl just ran off. She didn't know what to say. She just picked the hose up and ran. I was like,
but do you know, like you talked about like you mentioned authentic leadership, like, and I think coming here, like we've had like access to Danny, who's just like our fire lord, like, and you know, like the most authentic leader you're like
fire lord. I love that.
She got coined that.
She was one of the women that was hysterically banging on the train windows yesterday.
She was. She's so herself.
But I just
so glad she's not had that beaten out of her, because she's had some rough experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's just like we've got access to those authentic leaders here, and like you say, like no one's got a uniform, and you can talk to those people as people, and like but that's how they are, like on like whether they're on the incident ground or whether they're in the bar or you know wherever. It's just having access to those people. Like it's such a.
It does slip into the vernacular. I hate it at the beginning of workshops where they go introduce yourself, and we go around, and I hear everyone going, "My name's so and so. I've been here 22 years," and they come to me and I'm like, "I'm Pete. I'm a dad. I've got 3 dogs."
You're not defined by your time.
And then people go, "Oh yeah, sorry, Pete, that's all lovely, but like, how long have you been in, and what rank are you?"
Because that's I'm now going to make.
Oh yeah, I've been firefighting for a little bit over nearly 2 decades. And I'm like, "But what's your rank? Why does it matter? I'm not here to take command of the workshop. Why does it matter?"
Yeah.
But some people feel like it's such a status thing. Do you know what I mean?
But I think they're probably the people that are most insecure. That's what they've got to hang on to. And it's like, no, you can be so much more than that.
Yeah.
And I do think, and there are still people out there who do give that persona. And
also, you're in for a massive drop when you retire one day.
Yeah.
I remember hearing a great speech where a guy goes to a seminar and he gets driven by a private car and he goes in through the back and he gets a special teacup and someone shows him to the room, and the next year he'd retired and he goes back there.
I heard that.
You hear that one, and he's like, "I had to get myself to the venue, I had to wait to come in, I asked them where the coffee was," and it was the Simon Sinek
Yeah,
speech.
in the styrofoam cup.
Yeah, styrofoam cup. It's called styrofoam cup. And he goes, "I realised the China cup wasn't for me, it was for my rank." And I'm like, everyone will leave this thing, and all we ever deserve is a styrofoam cup. Because and people think, like, and I work with a lot of people that are now retired, and they so struggle when they come to ESS or a Blue Light Show, and they think like, "I've arrived, you're welcome." I'm like, "Dave, just fucking sit down. You're a normal person now. You've got a lot of great experience, but you're just a person as well." John McDonough said it, he's like, "We're all students, just with different levels of experience. Lindsay's just got more experience than me in those areas, but I've also got more experience than her in this, or riding a horse, or whatever it might be. So we can all learn from each other if you don't let your ego get in the way."
Yeah, but I think when we did it yesterday, when we introduced ourselves, we just was like,
not one person said
we just said our names and where we were from. I think that was about it, and it was like, this isn't about us, it's about you guys. And if we were going to do that, we'd have gone around the whole room, but we knew everything about them anyway, because we'd asked them what but it was just nice. It was like, this is our names, and that's all you need to know. We're here to look after you and give you a good day, and that was it, wasn't it?
Yeah. And Kath and I had some time with them before we start as well, but we never go into our ranks or our positions. So. I'm not sure they do. They might know Kath, but yeah, because and as well, you know, going back to you saying about walking in a room and kind of giving you rank and things like that can shut the conversation down depending on what people's experience has been within their services or within certain individuals. So I think it's, you know, for me, I always try not to say that unless there's an expectation.
Have you heard of the hippo effect? The highest paid person's opinion. And like so many people go, Lindsay just said green.
My God, yeah.
Do you think green? I think green. Well, weren't we all just saying fucking blue before Lindsay walked in?
Yeah.
No, blue was a rubbish idea. Lindsay said green.
Oh,
And you're
absolutely.
Like, well, Lindsay's just a human.
We have
she
that
didn't
now,
hear the
but
rest of the
that's
chat.
Casey.
She might
We
say
just
blue as well. But people do, and they just go, and sometimes they're doing it for different motivations and trying to be in with a certain
But it's
thing.
fear. They don't want to stand out. It's
Just a little story on that.
Yeah.
We'd done an MTA exercise in Liverpool, and I was on like the board, and this man come up to me. He was just in normal clothes. He was like, "Oh, like how's it going? Blah blah blah." He was like, "What do you think of the kit?" I went, "Mate, this kit is shit." I said, "It's so shit."
Was
I
it
said,
Dan?
No, it was Steve Lang. So anyway, we're doing a debrief at the end. And he introduces himself. He's like, "Hi, I'm Steve Lang, Group Manager and MTA Lead."
Great.
And I went, and he just looked at me. And he come over and he was like, "Thanks for that."
Yes.
I said, "Look, you've just got my..." I probably would have said the kit was
Otherwise
bad,
it's the
but I
king's
wouldn't
clothes,
have went
isn't
in
it?
as hard as I did. And the kit got changed.
Great.
And I'm not saying it's because of that conversation, but because he didn't put that barrier up,
Yeah.
he I could speak freely.
Yeah, otherwise it's the king's clothes. Like everyone's saying, "Oh, you look great, you look great, you look great," and someone goes, "You know, you're naked, right?"
No, we're pretty
You
honest
look
at
really
the minute,
honest.
each other in this
Too
workshop.
honest in
We're
this
pretty
workshop.
honest. Yeah.
It can get quite brutal, yeah.
Any danger of that
There's certainly
here?
no rank in this group.
But isn't that the unfortunate secret sauce into why this thing gets so successful? People feel so comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's just, and I say it with, and I want to just like close by saying thanks to you guys for coming on and being so, because a few of you like saw the microphone and like, "That's a fucking snake, it's going to bite me, I'm going to embarrass myself." But I'm like, this is why people love
That's not why I
hearing
picked
from-
up. It's because usually I hold the conversation and take charge and take over, and I really didn't want to do that for this.
You said the least, actually.
Exactly.
You've been on standby ready the whole time.
We're filling your voids.
Yeah.
Apologies all, that's why.
Well done, Case.
I just think if we could have more of these conversations, it shouldn't be that these things are rare conversations that we only have at events like this. If we could do this more in our day-to-day lives, how much more comfortable would everybody be, how much more engaged would they be, and all that sort of stuff. So thank you all for being super transparent and honest, and hope you travel home safe.
It's made me love the workshop even more. Now we've just spoken about it.
And then we'll share
It
everybody
was
else.
spoken about on the last year's
Oh, Tom.
Kath was on and Tom
Okay.
Wiskoff,
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom's great. I
Yeah,
think Tom's
yeah,
really cool.
he's on our workshop.
He keeps talking to
He's
us
a
on
massive
LinkedIn.
ally.
I think we're going to have
He'd be
we're going to have to up our numbers on ours. There's lots of people. Ours is oversubscribed quickly.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Yeah.
But isn't that a
why
great
would you not
bond
want
to
to hang
have?
out with us? Yeah.
Yeah.
You just have to,
Yeah.
this is the biggest, one of the biggest facilities in the UK. There's Merseyside have just got their new training centre, Manchester. You're going to have to start having regional events, this sort of thing.
30th of September, everyone.
Merseyside did what I think West Mids have done one, but yeah, all the big ones, LFB, Manchester, all of these services.
Wales
Town
have got
and Wear, Wales.
It's gonna
they
get
should
competitive,
start
I
doing
think,
their own
yeah.
stuff. But no, it's similar to what we do with the
Yeah.
challenges, like
Yeah.
Welsh and the British. And then this should be the big
Yeah.
annual event in the thing. And then you have all the feeder ones, because
Yeah.
services can't afford necessarily to keep sending more and more people here. But
Well, there's
it's
a
great
maximum
bond to have.
capacity for here as well. That's
Yeah,
the
Of
but
course,
on
with the
that as
accommodations, the challenge, isn't
well, something that Women in the Fire Service did this year, which they haven't done previously. You know, you were saying about some of the bigger services can send more people. This year, they really
Got a
equalled
cap
it
in,
out.
yeah.
So every service I think got allocated X number of places first to share it out a bit.
And I think having those extra regional events as well, it's just going to help keep strengthening in those
Yeah.
networks. And you're going to have
Yeah.
people
100%.
that they might make the annual event, but rather than waiting a whole year round to go and see people again.
And also workshops and speakers.
That's what I
that
mean.
may not, like Helena, I think, went and spoke at that one. It's like
Oh, she came- yeah.
wouldn't feel necessarily comfortable enough to stand in front of 600 people or whatever and do that. But at a local regional one, and that for her own personal development and her own professional development, it's
Yeah.
like boom, little bit of scary adrenaline. Actually, I think I could go and do
Yeah.
that. I could do it again. I could do it again. And
I think it
Lindsay
shows
and Danny will have
services as
spoken
well.
at one thing once and gone, "Oh my god, that was terrible," and then
Yeah.
they just learn and they develop.
It shows services as well that. So in Cumbria, we don't have a lot in the way of training
Yeah.
facilities. Nothing like Merseyside, for example,
Yeah,
Manchester. But we did a regional event last year, and it was a great success. It was one day in September. We had a few workshops on of what we could offer. We had speakers. yeah, it wasn't all bells and whistles like some of the services, but we were able to offer something.
Version.
And that's it. You can.
It still adds value, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it
you
still
can
adds
give
Plus, because you
quality.
guys have been here, you've seen what not perfect looks like, but you've
Yeah.
seen a great template, and you've gone, oh, you know what they do at WFS is
Yeah.
actually we had these partner cards, so we had this person bingo thing, which was a great networking little exercise.
But even still for Merseyside, so Paige is running Merseyside's one. Well, you're now one of the highest ranks, aren't you? So for Paige, the network of people that she in the service she has, it's like I need some more people because there's a lot of women in Merseyside, but the network of people Paige has got around her now are going to turn up, and these are all going to support the workshop.
Yeah, that's
and
it.
it's going to be
You
led by
tell
that.
Kirsty Walker.
Yeah.
So Kirsty says she's really struggling in getting women in Merseyside to feel confident enough to do and I know it's a fitness thing, and that's a different whole sort of thing, but I'm like, the rising tide raises all the ships. It's a win-win-win if we can, because loads of people want to do it, but they're scared of it, you know, and they'll be scared of coming to stuff like this.
Like you said, it's because they can't see it, what Lindsay said before. You've got to see it.
But that's the point as well, though. Like the services that are maybe hosting the event don't necessarily have to offer everything. We can, you know,
People
other
come and help
services
and
can
they'll travel.
support and deliver workshops and across the board, just try and help that way as well.
If you're brave enough to just kick it off, you'll be astonished at the help that you get. Look, thank you very much,
Thank
girls.
you very
Really
much.
appreciate it.
Thank
And, I'll see you
All
next
the best
year.
with your podcast.
Cheers.
The Firefighters podcast was created to recognize, acknowledge, inspire, and hopefully even motivate these incredible individuals who have chosen to be part of the first responder community. Our driving purpose is to create a legacy resource for the current and future generations of firefighters and first responders. We get some incredible feedback from listeners and guests, and as the podcast grows, our desire to create longevity and sustainability means that we are asking for the support of our listeners. If you want to support the podcast, if you want to get discounts to our merchandise, hoodies, clothing, coins, patches, tallies, and also access to all of the incredible documents that get shared with us from our podcast guests and sector leaders, then please head over to our Patreon page, and for just £3 a month, you can support the future of the podcast. Please finally hit that follow, subscribe, or rate button on the platform you're listening, and wherever you're around the world, please support your emergency services responders, and thank you for listening.